Panelists, are you ready?
Yes.
So the first question I would like to ask is, first of all, do we see marketing as a cost center or a growth engine? So I will start from, let me start from Uchenna.
I would have preferred the next question.
No, let's just start with you.
Okay.
Okay. So do you see marketing as a cost center or a growth engine?
Marketing can be a growth engine,
But
but because of certain things.
like,
Okay, so if you're coming from a business perspective and a business owner, you realize that a lot of the things or perspective you see it as are just what you feel like because that's your perspective. Marketing is a growth engine if you do the right things and the right metrics, KPI. But it can also be a cost center because there's vibe marketing. Sorry, the aspect of marketing that people just believe is just building perception. After building perception, which is measurable to an extent, what else comes of it? So that's why I don't like to answer a yes or no.
oh, okay. And I know you are a solid marketer, so it will be very tough for you to make a call. But let's move to
By the grace of
Bukayo.
God.
Bukayo, you, yes.
Marketing, good.
Bukayo doesn't want to justify his point, but
So really, the thing is, marketing is an investment. It's literally a growth engine. It only becomes every department is a cost center when you can't actualize how you contribute to revenue. So it's normal, right? It's not. I only think that marketing is more peculiar or more in the faces of people because marketing guys ask for budgets, right, as an expense. But as a marketing professional, like the last speaker said, you should always be able to show how your impact affects the bottom line. Yes, there are direct ones when it comes to performance, which we majorly do a lot on our side as a company. But when it comes to indirect efforts, like Innocent was saying, you still need to be able to show how your impact works. Like, for example, if you're thinking about cost per acquisition, right? As a performance marketing person, you see just cost per acquisition as a whole, right? But if you are in the brand marketing side of things, you still need to think about how do you affect cost per acquisition, right? So you then need to have a proper thinking to say, how do you affect brand sentiment in the market? What's the top of the mind? When you do campaigns, you want to measure brand lift surveys to say, are the people able to recall your brand when they need to make a buying decision? They look at the organic attributions as well. How is organic attribution growing? And then you can tie that to an indirect impact for you, right? And then you show a business case to CFOs. I think a lot of marketing people just need to always have a business understanding, right? And then be so it's a definite growth engine.
thank you, Bukayo. We've not even started, and you started diving deep into some things we're still going to go into. Tayo, from the C-suite seats, what do you think about this? You see the budgets. Is it worth it? Are we seeing results for the amount of effort we are putting into marketing? Is it that deep?
So it's contextual.
Okay.
There are, when you think about budgets, there's many people on the leadership team that looks at it and they have different perspectives. Everything is a cost to an accountant, right, or to the finance team. To the sales team, everything that doesn't directly help them sell is a cost that is unnecessary. To the marketing team, they always want more money. And so a leadership team's perspective when they look at marketing or any type of budget is, could it be less? Right? Whether we're getting results from it depends on multiple things that are, specific to each situation. There's over what timeline are we even looking at? Like, are we getting results? But is it 3 months? The answer is most likely to be no, especially if you're just starting out. marketing results within 12 months, you're more likely to be able to measure. But the question also then becomes, do we have this much? How much time do we have? Do we have this much time? Has this person been burning cash for the last 12 months and they're suddenly asking for double the budget? What are they going to do differently? So those are some of the things that you look at.
I think that's very brilliant. And one of the things that come top of mind for me is, especially as early stage businesses, growth stage businesses, we're very, should I say, low on budgets, right? So,
Running lean.
is that?
Running lean.
Running lean, very lean, yeah. So, do we say that we should attempt to grow organically first before diving into paid marketing? Or is there a playbook that you can maybe share in that regard? And how much should we really be investing in paid marketing? Bukayo, let's start with you.
Okay, so I think the first thing you need to think about is, so I lead a business, right? So head of business, you need to think about where you are as a business, right? What part of the business life cycle are you in? Like you said, the very early stages, right? What you then need to think about is, what's your business strategy in terms of how do you want your DTM? Are you going a sales-led approach in terms of sales-led growth? Are you going product-led growth, right? Because that would really inform where most of your resources would go to in terms of investments. So let's assume you are going towards a product-led approach. Most of your money is going to be spent on products and marketing, just by default because of that, right? So when you then think about marketing now in that situation, you then say, with the available resource I have, what part of marketing can give me the highest benefits for the current resource? You don't have to do 30 things. You don't have to do, when you think about paid marketing, right? You think of socials, you think of offline, and not just paid digital, right? There's digital definitely, but there's all offline. You say, should I invest more in offline? Should I invest more in online, right? One as a business. If I'm investing online more, right, what channels should I look at with my limited resource? Because what happens a lot of time is people want to be on everywhere, right, with very limited budget, and then you dilute the investment and effectiveness of that budget. That's one. Second mistake that people do is also go for popularity when it comes to that, to say, I just want to go for the popular channel without thinking about audience fit and your ICP, defining what your business does and if that is where people spend time for you to communicate with them. And then the third thing is, what's the objective for you, for your type of business, right? So if you look at B2B, the objectives will differ. Like when you think about lead generation, the MQLs, the quality of the leads you're coming in, then you measure things like what's the win rates from that and all of that, right? For B2C, it's slightly different in terms of what you measure, right? Marketing investment will still be done for that B2B business, but you look at lead gen, but it's also something demand generation, right? Demand capture might not come from you, so you might be doing in terms of share of mind, being in people's faces at where your ICP spend time, so that when your sales team are able to then meet with those people, there's a touch point about 1, 2, 3 before they start hearing about the products, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, different from a B2C point of view as a whole.
Okay. So, Uchenna, I want you to answer the question as well. And Bukayo, just so I don't forget, you mentioned something around channels during one of our conversations last week. And I want you to repeat what you said. But let's talk to Uchenna first. So how do growth stage, early stage businesses manage the lean resources they have when it comes to marketing and budgets?
Okay. So you rephrased the question. My head wasn't the first question, but yeah. Lean startups, early stage businesses, how do you decide to invest and how do you come about your budgeting? So for me, I would say it's mostly, you've talked about product-led, sales-led, but it's also more of a customer-centric approach. Looking at the psychology of your customer and understanding them and finding out where that's slim line where you can find their pain points and meet them there. I always say, I got to a stage where I started as a digital marketer, yes, but I usually tell my students, marketing is marketing. The only thing that has evolved is how the customers jump around these touch points and, would I say, the customer journey. So what you then do is look at the most important touch points for them that will give you the most value. low-hanging fruits, and then invest as much as you want to invest. However, I have a problem because as marketers, you must have come across this where because of the idea of growth marketing, which is an abuse of what marketing is what really is, finding ways, look at marketing, you influence products, price, placement, promotion, you understand? So it is just marketers who are using technology to sell, but no stones, no shades. Find the lowest hanging fruit, and how can you maximize that? And there's nothing like there's nothing entirely free. It will cost you something. People will give case studies. Oh, is it Outbox? What's this guy's name? They used to save Dropbox. People will say, oh, they made a post, they started with a video, and it went viral, and all of that. You don't know how much of...
You're not Dropbox.
You don't know how much of little budget that has gone to the right places to make that growth happen. But it's just identifying the touch point between the business offering, the customer's pain point, and the most relevant investments in those aspects will go a long way. And yes, to be measurable and tracked.
Okay, so I want to go to Tayo first. Tayo, you've worked in sales, now RevUps, and I'm just thinking, is there one marketing activity maybe you see around that you believe that it's maybe a waste of time or waste of resources, that you just think as early stage businesses, you should just eradicate it from your plans?
If you have the money.
You want them to beat me outside?
I wanted to say, you are going to have put a caveat behind it.
A lot of marketing is not going to get you results, just statistically. Because in the typical sales funnel or acquisition funnel, marketing is supposed to generate opportunities, right? And sales is supposed to convert those opportunities. In many industries, lead to paid conversion is sometimes less than 1%, which means 99 point something percent of marketing could be said to not be. If your marketing spend is tagged at acquisition, is failing most of the time. So if you looked at it from just that perspective, then you say, but the truth is marketing and customer acquisition and brand building and all of those other things are a continuum. So even though this person isn't converting today, they are now in the journey. They're now somewhere in the funnel. And even if they say no today, it's maybe no, not now. So generally what I would say about, to answer your question, what I think people should stop doing, and this goes to founders, revenue leaders, everybody, is to not set a budget, a marketing budget that is not aligned with the goals.
What goals?
So someone would say, you have a budget of $10,000 a month. The sales target, that won't change. Every month, 10,000, guaranteed. The sales target in January is 100,000. The sales target in February is 110,000, so it's jumped 10%. Yeah. And every month, they'll be adding 10%, and then they might come in July and say, oh, this is the peak of summer, and so target is going up by 100% because we expect people to buy, but that budget hasn't. And so you give that to a marketer, and then it's just like, look, my job is to fill this pipeline. It forgets about quality. It's now just numbers game. And then it succeeds. And so it's like, man, I fit my target. I can close. But you know who then gets to pick up the slack? Sales. And so sales comes by and says, no, these leads are, they're horrible. They're not as good. Lead quality is dropping, blah, blah, blah. And then they start fighting marketing. Then marketing is like,
Marketing will say sales is lazy.
no. So and then that's
I was going to say something about this sales and
and
marketing.
then that's why you would have heard all of these terms. And we were talking about this a few weeks ago, right? Marketing says, oh, we gave you 10,000 MQLs. And sales says, yeah, but we didn't move them to SQLs. And then, so there's MQL, there's SQL. You now
There's
start,
marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads.
and then you now start to, so MQLs now start getting an extra level of qualification. They'll say sales MQL, marketing MQL. What does that even mean? Right? And then let's say sales is like, you know what? I'm just going to lie to these people.
Yeah.
This is what our product does. But you can also do this and this. What do you have? You have a headache. You can solve it.
For marketing.
And so sales is just like, please just give me money. I'm meeting my targets. And then they pass it to customer success. And then customer success picks up and in onboarding, the person is saying, oh, I want it to do this, this, and this. And they're like, they will just call you and say, what did you tell the customer? You guys like, see, that's your business. I'm not even trying to deal with that. So, I mean, to round this up, I think that misalignment between marketing budgets, because we're talking about budgets, and revenue goals just causes a lot of things to break inside of organizations.
Okay, thank you. So from what you just said, I'm thinking, where do we remove this marketing budget from? Is it supposed to be like from profit? This is me asking as a layman, like I don't know anything about this, but is it from profit, maybe month on month, or is it from like your total revenue that comes into the business? Like where are you removing your marketing budget or expenses from?
Yep. So this is, what do they call it? Founder equity, investor money.
Yeah.
It's money that is there, is meant to be spent to acquire customers. If your marketing, by the point you're able to take marketing budget from profit, you're already a ridiculously successful company. Right? You are now in the realm of Apple and Google, and yeah, but it will take you a while to get to that point.
Okay, Bukayo, I see you wanted to add.
Yes, right. Because a lot of things I hear is marketing spend, right? But I always see it as marketing investments. So the money is not marketing spend; it's actually marketing investments.
That's what marketing people always say.
No,
Yeah.
but really, it's actually marketing investment, right? And I'll be a little bit controversial here, right? When it comes to disbursement of funds, right, if it's sales, if it's operations requesting, right, is typically faster to get that out. But when it comes to marketing, it's usually a little bit tougher. I think marketers have a lot to play around that too because we don't build our attribution and measurement properly. Yeah. So that when we go ask for the money, we don't come back and say, oh, this was it, this is number right. Whether it's direct or indirect, it is totally fine to also report indirect. I think it's very important to measure that. Now, when it comes to the investment point of view, where does the money come from? The money comes from running a business. It is not, again, a spend or it's not an expense. It's an investment. So whether it's capital injection from fundraising or it's bootstrapping or it's taking part of the sales in terms of revenue and reinvesting that money back into the business, it's an investment that needs to be made from a capital injection point of view.
I think I like your point of view on that as well. But I want us to go back to that conversation around channels, right? And the illustration you gave from when you have to remember. Okay, so we're talking about which channels should small businesses, growth stage businesses invest in terms of marketing, like starting earlier on. And Bukayo gave a really good illustration of knowing where your customers spend time. And are you remembering? Okay. And he walked through, as a customer, when your customer opens their phone, when they wake up in the morning, when they open. So just give that illustration. And I want us to be able to tie it into how we can now track performance, return on investment, and all of that.
Yeah, so I think I was talking about channel selection, literally. And I think I kind of hinted at it the last time that a lot of people choose channels based on popularity rather than actually thinking about the consumer journey, right? So whether it's a B2B or it's a B2C, think about consumer journey. Then also think about the peculiarity of your industry and how those people behave. Then the third thing is also think about the market segments and the peculiarity of that market segments, mid-market, enterprise markets, and younger markets, right? If you're looking at the enterprise markets, your investment will majorly be in demand generation, branding, as well as some collaborative things, right? Because personal relationship is quite important in that place, but you need to have made some thought leadership and confidence in that industry, right? When it comes to that. So channel selection is then to see how do you think about the consumer journey and the touch points of those people. Where do they spend time? How does their day actually start? Right? And then understand the intent level at the different consumer touch points. Right? Because if you go early in the consumer touch point, the intent might be lower. But if you're another point in that touch point, the interest might be higher in that particular day, right? My intent might be higher when I'm in the office, I'm making maybe a buying decision in Q3, Q4, right? Because Q4 happens, in terms of Q4, is that people are planning for the next year most of the time in Q4. So the buying decision at that time is pretty high, right? You can get into 2026 budgets from 2025 Q4 in your planning. So you need to understand, how do I communicate to this person and where should I communicate to them? So where do they spend time in this Q4 at the moment, right? What are the conferences they go to? What are the people they speak to? If it's B2B in that perspective. So that's like a summary, because I could speak a little bit about it more. But the major thing is, you think about it, if they wake up, what did they pick up first? Did they pick their phone? What's the first thing they check? Did they check their email? Or did they read newspapers in terms of the national dailies? And what's their intent state at that level? At that stage, they're not in buying decision making. They're in updates, information, education point of view, right? When they're in the car driving to work, depending on the business, again, I'm thinking about B2B in this point. What are they listening to in that situation, right? How do you want to be at that touch point? Is it crucial for you? When they get to the office, what's the first action they take in the time? What are the types of meetings that they do take? How do they spend their downtime? How can you be present at that? Depending on your resources, and then value. What I usually say is, invest your resources in the highest intent points of that consumer journey, right? Because you're more likely to convert that person at that point. So I hope that gives clarity. Without having to mention, do this, do, cold emailing, do LinkedIn outreaches in terms of
Do
list activation and all of that.
radio
Radio.
ads.
Once you think about that, the rest literally falls in place at that point.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Uchenna, what's a metric that many companies are tracking in terms of their and it's not what they should be focusing on? So tell us, what should we be focusing on in tracking how?
What company? Example, industry.
Okay, let's still put it at growth stage, early stage type of companies.
Okay, early stage, if you're coming from the tech startup perspective, is, so for instance, there's a lot of importance on just installs or even sign-ups, which over the years I've learned that a lot of us have downloaded apps because we have been abused by the amount of times we have seen the adverts, because they have a lot of money, and we're told in marketing that if a consumer sees an ad for 7 times, they're likely to take an action. And they forget the bottom line. And let's also be factual. Not every startup acts like they want to succeed. In the first place, investor money, because the money is a lot, because there is a brand, both from founders' perspective as, startup, and from the eyeball point of view, there is less importance on the bottom of the funnel activities. For instance, what is the most important indicator that someone is going to end up using your application or your platform? Let's use fintech, which is the most common startup. Yeah, over banking debunked.
No
So
shades allowed.
people KYC and do all that. But if the first level of KYC and nothing happens in 2 weeks, are they going to be relevant? And then the most important thing is if they can make a minimum viable action, which is depositing. So the most important bottom line action is what should be considered in terms of marketing.
Yeah. So I think I understand you, right? But there are also realities. So I'll give you an example. Um, Business leaders, maybe at startups or something, right, have intent at different stages. At times, what they're focusing on can be market share gain at that point, right? Which is they are not very doubling down on growing the lifetime value of users exponentially first. So it might be market share, right? To say we want to grow to 1 million users, right? The lifetime value might be, a ratio of cost per acquisition of 1 to 1, which means we are breaking even. We're not making money yet. So the goal of the business is market share. So at that point, lifetime value, like number of transactions per users, transaction volume, doesn't matter as much as
That's a
sign up. Yeah, it's not as much as sign up, like numbers of sign ups at the time. I can tell you that businesses that would literally just that's like the core for that business type. But to speak specifically to measurements, right? I think the key thing is to be able to have the right measurement tools in place. Because a lot of things that we see happen is that a lot of businesses go into investment, marketing investment, without setting up the right attribution and measurement tools, right? I'll give you an illustration. We work with a lot of partners, right? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to name drops, right? But we did work with CarryWise early in the year, right? In fact, from 2024, right, in Q4. And it was much more of, okay, let's kick off with these guys and see what's possible in terms of user acquisition. Their goal was majorly to grow acquisition and then see the assets under management grow. But we didn't start off with growing AUM immediately. We made sure that you need to have an MMP integrated, whether it's Firebase, AskFlyer, whatever. We need to be able to see that at like phase 2 or phase 3 of the project. By the time we got to January, we were able to see the impact that we did on a little campaign on Meta. We invested much more on Google Ads, and we scaled campaign performance. I think we did about 62,000 sign-ups for them. AUM was able to grow like 25% or so thereabout in terms of AUM. So the business impact is there. Same thing goes for like a business that has to do with, is a crypto, right? Apex. Their impact was we were costing them based on cost per registration, but we could still measure the entire user funnel. So we didn't, even though there was not in a lot of unique trade counts, we had about 4,000 trade volumes from the campaign, right? But there's also a situation where the partner did not properly set up an MMP before we kicked off. And then we were having this forth and back to say, this was the impact on all that. So you need to make sure you set that thing right correctly. Then you can define what metrics matters to you at the stage of your business, right, to do that, so that you know where your money is going to.
I know this is something that Pisi does, right? And if someone is just starting out at this stage, they don't have that system, they don't even know what metrics to track, how to scale and optimize the budget, the limited resources they have. Like, how do they get started?
So for us as a business, we work majorly with like growth stage because there's a level of investment that needs to be done in the marketing, in department in order to scale and get the results you're looking at. But as an early stage company, I would refer you back to what I said earlier. Just find the highest intent channel with the available resources that you have in that consumer journey and like flog that thing a lot so that your business, because if you don't have money, you don't have a business really, right? Milk that in as much as possible as business. But for Pisi, one of the key things we always say is, even though we have like a lot of solutions, right, we focus much more on solving a problem, which is why we're not like an agency. We're actually an advertising technology. So we have technologies, right? We also have reseller solutions, but we also have a managed team, a team that manages your campaign to execution for you. So it's not we're saying that you should do this, but we've done it before, and we can have evidence to show that we can do that for you.
Okay, thank you, Bukayo. So to wrap up, this is for Uchenna and Tayo. If living here today, like after everything we've discussed and all they've listened to, what's something that they can actionably do to maybe justify their marketing budget to leadership? So, Uchenna, I want you to just speak to us from the marketing lens, like as marketers, and Tayo from the C-suite lens. What's something you, as someone on the leadership team, what's something you want to see that can make you say, oh, yes, this is a great one? Okay, so go for it.
Okay, so this might even be my closing. But as marketers, it's important to understand that our work is to drive value for the business. And in as much as sometimes we seem like the last born of the family that keeps asking for money with nothing tangible it is used for, um, it is important to understand that the business has different aspects of it. And the good thing about marketing is we have a handshake with every aspect of the business, from customer experience or customer service to sales and the likes. I was talking to some guys in the insurance industry sometime last week, and it was about unifying sales and marketing data, or unifying, working together. And sorry, some marketers will be upset, but there should be shared KPIs with sales. Depends on the kind of business you run.
I agree.
Yes, shared KPIs so that you don't feel like, oh, we have passed the ball. However you end it, from the MQL to the SQL is your business. If we have shared KPIs, metrics, we will listen to the guys on the streets. Why am I saying that? There's enough of what dashboards can tell us. What are the nuances behind the data? What are the cultural perspectives? An example, one of the insurance companies launched a product that the sales guys are saying, my target is billions in a year. And you have created a sachet version for insurance policy. And now I have to talk to 1,000 people before I can meet quarter of my target.
Instead of 100
if
people,
there was
maybe
some sort of alignment, you would have understood what the needs of the people are from the perspective of the sales guys, because you are sitting on your system, you share research, and you give 100 people, you go to your WhatsApp group, you share to people. Sorry, some of those responses are already skewed because one, they know you. Two, they're in a community, they feel this is the most appropriate response they should give, not the actual response you get when you know what happens in the street. So the best way to be the best of a marketer you can be is match data with reality. And you can only get real-time qualitative data is from those who are the first point of contact with the customers, customer service and sales. If these guys are not your friends, then you're beginning, then that's where it is a cost center.
Okay, thank you so much, Uchenna. Wrapping up, Tayo. So what do you want to see as leadership in when this budget is presented? Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, the answer to this question changes, based on your context. There are marketers who are lucky enough to have to be reporting to leadership that already sort of understands or aligns with them and what they need to do. But there are also instances where, maybe you've joined a new company, they're trying to be more tech forward, and you're saying things that they just don't understand. There's pros and cons to those two situations. But generally speaking, if I was looking at a marketing budget, it would first of all be, what are we trying to achieve, and how does this budget achieve it? So I would need to see it broken down into what percentage of this is for awareness, what percentage of this is going towards brand building, what is the percentage of it that is going towards actual sales and revenue generation in this period of time. When do I start seeing results from each of these buckets? Brand building, if you said you won't see results for 6 months, or you start seeing results, like I can understand that. If you said to me awareness, you start to see something in 3 months, it would then be, okay, how are we measuring awareness? Right? Is it just traffic to the website? Is it mentions on social media? And then revenue, how much revenue? Now, marketers will say, oh, I'm not responsible for that. Sales will tell you that. But then there has to be a proxy, right? How do we measure, what is the quality? How do we, and that's where that alignment has to happen, right? And also things that sort of tell you how we're performing, like what is going to be, or what is the target CAC to LTV ratio? Essentially, what is the cost of acquisition going to be versus the lifetime value of the customer? If you can explain that to me clearly, and we can look at the math and it makes sense, and we can agree on the check-in periods and where we expect to be, you probably would not hear from me between this conversation and the next check-in period. Unless, obviously, I have access to the dashboards and I'm seeing we're not going to hit these targets. Right? So that's what I would expect to see if I was reviewing the marketing budget.
Thank you so much, dear panelists. I hope we got one or two things from this. Thank you, Pisi, for sponsoring this panel. So if we're taking anything away from this session is selecting the right channels where our customers actually are, being able to track the right metrics that really matter to our business goals, right? Okay, so is there any question?
One question only, please.
Is it fight?
No, it's not fight now.
Okay, I think his hand was up first.
I think there's three people whose hands went. We can take it just really quickly.
See, I'm not fighting anybody. If you have questions, write it down. The mixer afterwards, you have your questions. But for now, we can only take one question. So please bear with me. Don't worry, I'm not fighting anybody.
Okay, so let's have your question. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi guys, thank you so much for the time. I think I know everyone on the panel, and my question is, this topic is always very interesting, so I'm looking at it from my perspective as someone who basically gives you guys targets. What I think is missing from the conversation is on the corporate objective part of things, right? Because I feel that sets the tone of whether this becomes a cost center or a growth engine. As CEOs, most times, or founders or business owners, the first thought is how do we do less? I mean, how do we spend less and do more, right? And most times the pressure comes downward. So I have customers and, of course, the board to report to. My question for you is, have you ever been in a case where you need to defend a budget that is currently, from the CEO's perspective, looking like a cost center, but you know from your data can become a growth engine? How have you been able to switch that narrative to say, invest this 2 billion naira. We are not going to make money now. We're going to make money in the next 2 quarters. And next 2 quarters will become the new channel for us to make maybe 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, or 5 billion, as the case may be. And the person is looking at the current runway and the salaries and the commitment of the budget, and they are all weighing that cost against what you are telling them now. How are you able to switch that narrative to say, invest in this channel or in this growth initiative right now? Thank you.
Okay, so are you directing your question to anyone in particular?
I think any of them can take it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
So who wants to go?
I can share a practical example from my past. I think many people know about the company that is now called the Ewuoso Group. So in 2021, I was VP of Sales and Marketing at Ewuoso, and we spent $1.9 million in 2021.
On marketing?
On marketing. But every year in 2022 and 2023, we only spent $800,000 each of those years. And the logic was simple at that time, right? It is that you could be spending $250K a quarter. Context, this was across 4 countries, so it wasn't just Nigeria. You could be spending $250K a quarter, $500K a quarter, but you wouldn't get the results that you get by making that investment at once. So for instance, a huge chunk of that money went to multi-choice because we could get a deal where you pay for this number of slots, but you can use them across all of the markets. You can decide on a monthly basis where you wanted to deploy it. And so, yes, to answer your question, that has happened before. How I was able to justify and whether it's repeatable, I don't know. I think it was just a unique situation where a VP of marketing and a founder have trust and alignment. And also, it is a risk on your own part. Professionally, it's like putting your neck on the line. And after it was approved, what happened in my life was that I was on a plane every other week, right? I was in meetings with account managers and multi-choice and Google and Facebook every other week saying, this thing has to work because when that thing was being approved, are you sure?
And it was based on that trust.
Yes, and so, yeah, it can happen.
Okay, so we'll be wrapping it up here. If you have any other questions, you can speak with any of the panelists during the mixer. I hope we all had a great time. So, thank you.
Please, a round of applause for this wonderful panelist and our moderator.